Next session will be in English. So we have some sessions in Malay, and this one is in English. So our next speaker is Dato Hajeedar Abdul Majid, who is actually an architect and also a heritage activist. So he is the former president of the Architect Association of Malaysia and E-Commerce Malaysia, which stands for the International Council on Monuments and Sites Malaysia. So he was also a previous speaker at one of our sessions, and he is going to give sedikit sebanyak a bit about Muara Bustak, which is the old name of Kuala Lumpur, the name that is known by the people of Mandailing. And can I just promote Prof. Ezrin's book for a minute? Sorry, Prof. Ezrin. And before I invite the next speaker, this book has just been launched by Professor Ezrin from University Malaya. So even I have not bought a copy of it. So thank you very much. Next time, maybe we'll invite Prof to speak here. So, Dato, silakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan selamat pagi kepada para hadirin. Terlebih dahulu saya ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasihlah kepada saudara Johan yang telah berusaha untuk meneruskan perjuangan kita untuk to right the wrong. Dari segi konsep kita ialah to right the wrong dengan buktiran yang kukuh. Jadi usaha saya pada pagi ini telah ditumpukan kepada istilah Muara Bustak, di mana Kuala Lumpur telah dikenali. Tan Sri is there, just arrived. Jadi kita ingin bangkitkan isu yang telah banyak diperkatakan semenjak aktif semenjak tahun 2017 lagi, sebelum terbitnya buku Razak Lubis berkenaan Sultan Puasa, the first attempt to challenge the narration that Kuala Lumpur was founded by Yap Aloy. Jadi, with that, I've been advised that I should speak in front of the advised to speak in English. So, of course, being bilingual, I shall attempt to do so. So, what I will do is this. Try and focus on why we are here. For example, mukadimahnya ialah kenapa kita perlu kenal perihal penerokaan asal di Muara Bustak, also known as Kuala Lumpur, sebelum 1858. Tarikh 1858 is very critical dari segi sejarah penempatan kawasan kita ini. Dan jawapannya, semua penempatan yang berada di muara itu adalah berasaskan kepada usaha-usaha murni, ikhlas, membina dan nyata oleh peneroka dan penduduk-penduduk asalnya. Penempatan awalan berlaku dengan gigih mengikut fokus usahawan dan kehidupan oleh beberapa lapisan pendatang, inverted. That istilah somehow has been bended and we can argue about that istilah pendatang. Daripada Nusantara yang telah membina masyarakat setempat dengan izin sultan atau penguasa dan pentadbiran adat dan adab tersendiri yang ditubuhkan dalam masyarakat yang ada di Kuala Lumpur atau Muara Bustak. Maka kurang tepat jika usaha dan sumbangan pengasas-pengasas awalan tidak dikenang dan dihargai seolah peribahasa lembu punya susu, sapi yang dapat nama. Oleh itu, kita akan menyentuh satu naratif sejarah penempatan awal orang-orang Melayu di Muara Bustak pra tahun 1858, iaitu hampir 200 tahun dahulu. 200 tahun dahulu. Ya? Yang ada ialah cucu cicit pokok-pokok dan tumbuhan di Taman Tugu ini. That is the classic example I can give. That kita manusia lebih pupus lagi cepat daripada nature. Nature will always win. Nature is always the witness to the whole history of the country. So I have, in fact, on the advice of the organizers, because they wanted me to speak in English, I've already prepared the paper in Bahasa, but I've given you the English translation to what I've just said. There are only two occasions of this translation that it is inaccurate if efforts and contributions of the initial founders are not remembered and appreciated, as the proverb lembu punya susu, sapi dapat nama. So, this issue about the founder of Kuala Lumpur has been argued several times, and I had in 2017 at the UKM at an Atma forum shared a platform with the late Tan Sri Koo Kay Kim to discuss this. And my strongest point then was the narrative that was provided by the British with regard to our history. Our history was, as always, like all history, is always written by the winners. Yeah? So they like to present and appear as if they have positively contributed to any situation. And this is why at that particular forum, I raised the analogy or the argument that they like to pronounce that Singapore was founded by Stamford Raffles, Penang by Sir Francis Light, Australia by Captain James Cook, America by Christopher Columbus, and Kuala Lumpur by Aloy. So, when in fact, long before Aloy appeared, there was human settlements in this vicinity. And the earth that we stand on today is the best witness and testimony of their existence. Yeah. So this is why I take this opportunity to labor just this point, so that towards the end, I would like to suggest a recommendation or conclusion that may be pursued by others beyond me. Yeah? So, like I said, the reference to KL has been made several times. The Muara Bustak, literally translated in the Mandailing language, is muddy estuary. And the reason why it is muddy is obvious. Us, but not to the people who wants to change the narrative. Yeah. So quite apart from that, KL today was also referred to as Sungai Lumpur, as described by Anderson in his journey in 1818. Yeah. And then Kuala Lumpur, Burns, and Pengkalan Lumpur rujukkan kepada Tugu Kudin. So a quick image is what I have illustrated on the extreme right of the slide, is the kind of environment it was then, which is not far away from what we are today. Okay. 200 years of history of Kuala Lumpur. Today, we are here, 2024. And I'm taking you back to 1824. That's exactly 200 years ago. But the history does not start in 1824, but long before that. And this has been proven time and time again. And a classic example that I can make reference to is the Perak Man in Lenggong was confirmed and established as the earliest human settlement in this part of the world. So if Lenggong can have such a history, I think KL will have to. Yeah. So what I'm going to refer today is just this short bit, pra 1858, because that's when the community changed and the community got influenced by other people. Yeah. So in the original setup in Kuala Lumpur, it was inhabited by the orang asli of the Temuang tribe. And they used to stay at the confluence of the river, and they get pushed further and further ulu, as maybe mentioned just now. Yeah. So they are there. They are still there. And if you talk to them and you dig into their history, you'll be surprised to find out what else they know that we don't know, in their community. Now, beyond that is the Melayu, Selangor, Pahang, Negeri Sembilan, then the others who, in fact, I had one discussion before we started just now, that in Nusantara was just like a big kampong. You're not happy here, you move on to another part of the kampong. Yeah. So going across from Sumatra to Peninsula Malaysia is nothing. It's like that's going balik kampong. Yeah. So okay. And those are the people that live around there, and the social perumahan. So these are the physical or tangible evidence of human settlements in KL. Yeah, perumahan, and then they have a lifestyle. Therefore, they being Muslims, they have their masjid, and then ultimately, like all of us, we will have the tanah kuburan, which we will end, and then melombong, biji timah, kedai asas dan perdagangan, pentadbiran, kutipan cukai. They have some form of administration. They will authorize to collect taxes and spend on the social needs of the people. And then, so that is the period. I have developed this timeline for an earlier talk here in Taman Tugu, and shown the period within which from 1700 again back to 1858. And that's when the first outsiders, if we have to use the word outsiders, apart from the Malay community that came into KL. That's the period I can say nilai-nilai sejarah berasaskan ketara dan tidak ketara. Ketara are the physical forms, under the definition of the UNESCO, they are tangible and intangible civil assets within a community and our heritage. Yeah? So, those are what I've mentioned, kemasyarakatan. There is a community of value and adab, budaya, agama, and Islam during that initial period. Then the migration of the Mandailing people, and I have identified just two among the many personalities that I feel, I may be wrong, but I feel are worthy of recognition, for which not much recognition has been given. Yeah. So I have identified two people. One is Sultan Puasa, the other is Abdullah Hukum. These are the people who helped develop Muara Bustak into Kuala Lumpur today. And this is a classic reference to what I talk about, the Nusantara, the free movement of people within this region. Because once upon a time, we were just one region here in the Sunda land of 2 million years ago. There's nothing. That's why you can get, and I'm sure my Chinese colleagues who are here today will appreciate the fact that there is a lot of transmigration and in-migration, north and south, between this region and the north into China and from China down. So this is why you study the cultural habits and values of the people, even in Cambodia. They have some very close relationship with the people in Kelantan, for example. That's how they were. And likewise, Borobudur and Angkor Wat, there is an axis there. And also, Angkor Wat and Butang Valley, you'll be surprised. It may not be fully revealed, but you'll be surprised to know the kind of relationship the humans had and the human settlements had in this country. Yeah. So, okay, these are just images. Then I'll talk about the region that we are in before we arrive in KL. Transmigration and in-migration is nothing. Balik kampung saja, pulang ke kampung. I remember that once upon a time I was told the story about my father. Mano si Majid, dah ke Kelang. Ke Kelang means in Bukit Tinggi, it means he has gone overseas to Kelang, And Kelang, he doesn't live in Kelang. The port of entry was Kelang. From Kelang, they go everywhere, to the north into Perak, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So anyway, that is the kind of movement of people in this area. So from the port of Kelang, and sometimes in Lukut, they will go into Kuala Lumpur. Okay. Then this is one falsafah hidup orang Mandailing. Okay. Armimi has spoken about this, and I think not only the orang Mandailing, orang Minangkabau pun ada dia punya what's you call falsafah hidup, And the classic example is merantau lawaang. They will encourage their young to move on and seek their fortune elsewhere, because that's the challenge in life. At the age of 10, and my late father is a classic example. Merantau lawaang, go to Kelang. It's not Kelang, but it's Kajang. Finally, he landed in Kajang, and he grew up in Kajang, and that's it. And of course, there's another story. Yeah, but that gave birth to me. Like I was explaining that you know someone asked me where I was born. I say I was home delivered, not by Grab, but by Bidan. You know, in 1945. So I'm KL born. Therefore, my sentiment towards KL is there. To your question just now, why am I interested in this? Because I am interested, and I want everybody to be interested of their heritage and their origin, and be proud of the sacrifices made by your predecessors and recognize them. Yeah. Okay. So these are some of the things. Now I will show you images. Yeah, images that will tell you the story of Muara Bustak and KL then. And as the saying goes, a picture tells 1,000 words, and I cannot outbid that. And this is what I refer to as bukti-bukti bergambar, pengasas di Muara Bustak. Although the photograph is 1882, but long before 1882, this is the kind of community there was. It wasn't just a shed, but it was a living community of people living, having their life, their family, and growing their food, trading, and all that. On so there's a series of this, and more bukti, peta and gamba. You know, of course, this is after 18, 1858, but these are evidence of photograph, and this particular photograph here is at Sungai Gombak. Uh, uh, I refer to this where they wash their cows. Today we have car wash. Then they have cow wash. The cow wash was there. You know, so the cow wash was there, and that's where the tanah perkuburan is. And this is the view of this. And I didn't doctor this photograph. It came from the Leiden University in Netherlands. That's another point that I want to raise. That a lot of our artifacts and information is not in this country for some reason, uh, and I mean that's history. But again, the UNESCO in 2006, I think, or seven, has already passed the law that says that all artifacts must be returned to the original countries. And this process is ongoing now. As you can see, the museum, the British Museum, is now repatriating some of the artifacts that they have uh, to the African countries. And last year, the Dutch government has already visited Malacca to announce that they will return some artifacts to Malacca, because this year is Malacca visit year and things like that. So that's happened. So the other very strong evidence, bukti, is Batu Nisan. Then I have Faisal here has been doing research in all the tanah perkuburan in KL. Apart from here, there is this Jalan Ampangnya tanah perkuburan that there is a lot of people, and some with Batu Nisan properly documented, and some without. Those with proper documentation will name the person who is buried there, date of birth, and date of death. And that, to me, is sufficient evidence to say that they were settlers and residents in this part of the world. Yeah. So this evidence I have suggested to Faisal, who now is the deputy president of ICOMOS, to ensure that there be proper studies done. And if need be, we have to excavate one of the graves to do a carbon test on the bones of the person buried underneath to establish the date of his death as well as his life. If we can do that for Lenggong, I don't see USM not being able to do the study for KL. Yeah. Okay, I got 10 minutes. So as usual, I always talk too much. That's what my wife tells me. But okay, thank you. So okay, again, this is the kind of architecture there is in KL then. And if you look around, it reflects the ciri-ciri seni bina atau the architectural form that they are used to, and they transport it to where they live in KL, in the Muara. So to me, bukti bergambar again, ciri-ciri seni bina Mandailing yang okay. Here another from Bukit Nanas, Kuala Lumpur from Bukit Nanas. Then somebody is going to speak. This was the first masjid in KL where once upon a time Gensing used to stay, to be located. So they have relocated it from here to across the river into the present Masjid Jami Kuala Lumpur. Yeah. So from there to there. And this is another picture. This is not the same masjid. This is another masjid, Malay Street, where Masjid India is. This belongs to the Minangkabau community. Then again, pictures of Kampung Rawa, Batu Road. Okay. Historically, uh, so this is where, oh, sorry. This is where I have argued just now, the history, So we're not going further than that, but I just want to justify the lineage of the Sultan and the other people who have contributed to the development of KL. It's just a timeline image. And then the famous, the unnecessary perang saudara, perang Kelang, perang Selangor, perang saudara. I think the tragedy was perang saudara. It's always the fight among the saudara. So this is why pada kemuncak permintaan dunia untuk biji timah, there was an increase because of industrial revolution in Europe. There is an increased demand of tin ore. So aktiviti pelombongan timah telah meningkat di kawasan pedalaman Muara Bustak. That means further upstream into Ampang, into Ulu Kelang, and Segambut and beyond. Telah meningkat di kawasan pendalaman Muara Bustak. Maka perebutan niaga, perniagaan telah mencetuskan peperangan saudara between influential factions, unfortunately. Not the entrepreneurs, but influential factions, i.e. Tengku Kudin, who's also a son-in-law of the Sultan from Kedah, against Raja Mahadi. And okay, so this is how it started. And this is where the war was, unfortunately, again, supported by people because of their potential gains, So you have these two factions, and until okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, two people that I would like to highlight. One is Sultan Puasa. I think those who know about this book, Razak Lubis. In fact, Razak Lubis spoke at this venue last time, has highlighted. And this book is a real testimony of research and study, and cannot doubt the content. In fact, the second edition has just come out now, and he has amended the second edition. So again, who was he? He's not just an adventurer. He was a resident, and he was administrating Muara Bustak. And the only evidence I have, and in fact, there's no photograph of Sultan Puasa, but the grave stone in Ampang. Yeah. 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, okay. There you are. So that's his CV. Tarikh lahir 1822 and Mandailing Julu, Sumatra, and then migrasi at a very young age. He came across with the parents, and then in 1858 he was only 36 years old, and he commanded the commercial activity in KL then. Okey, berpindah ke Tanah Melayu bersama suku kaum Lubis ya, menyumbang dalam pengasasan di Muara dan bidang melombong biji. Then the critical date of 1858, sorry, 1858, when demand for tin was high and they needed more people working rather than the family working. In fact, the concept of mendulang among the Mandailing family was there. And they couldn't cope simply because you cannot make the lady. In fact, it was the ladies, the female of the Mandailing people who were mendulang. And of course, the concept of mendulang, you count the sea, river bed and tulang, and as you pen, only the heavier tin ore will remain. Yeah. So anyway, so because of that, he felt he needed extra workers, and the tin mines, or mining activity in Lukut, for example, was depleting. So he invited the first Chinese, Liu Xiu, to KL to help. But upon arrival, Xiu noticed that mining isn't everything. Trading is just as lucrative, if not more lucrative, than just mining. So the establishment of trading posts was expanded by the Chinese community. So because of cultural differences, they were allowed to have their own little community, and hence the birth of Chinatown near Cross Street, where today the Bangladeshis and others are. You see the transformation, and this is it. This is the challenge we have in this country. So, okay, Johan is looking at me. Okay, this is the other person. This is Haji Abdullah Hukum, who fortunately has been recognized, and his name still runs in the KL, although not in terms of the character of his contribution. Today you have LRT station Abdullah Hukum, you have this eco steer there, and it's destroyed the original identity of Kampung Abdullah Hukum, which is very close to my place of abode. And he is one man we should recognize for opening up physically Kuala Lumpur. He's the man who drained the swamps in Kuala Lumpur, because a lot of the foreign visitors who are not from this part of the world, i.e., from China, they are not immune to malaria. So most of them died of malaria. And because of that death, there was this need to drain all the swamp and all that. So we must credit him for physically developing Kuala Lumpur. Somebody should do. In fact, there is already a book out on him. I'll show you later. And there should be more books written on him as well as others. Yeah. So then I put a note there. There are other unsung heroes in Kuala Lumpur, including Anakoda Yusof from Terengganu. Then there are a lot of others, Haji Tahir, Haji Imbi, Haji Taib, Imam Usman, dan lain-lain. Okay, so this, Johan will be happy, is my last slide until he invites me again for another talk. Yeah. So Johan kat toilet. Anyway, this is what I would like to partner today. The message is learn the past, understand the present, why we are the way we are today. We never learn from the past. That's my message today. You know, I have Tan Sri here, who is a politician, still is, I think. And politics have also never learned. And then so that we can plan for a better future. That's basically the message. Ya. Dengan rendah diri atau in humility, saya ingin mengakhiri dengan menyatakan bahawa terdapat banyak lagi kisah-kisah dan bukti-bukti dan artifak-artifak masa lampau yang belum dikemuka untuk mengesahkan penerokaan serta pengasas awal Melayu di Muara Bustak pada zaman sebelum 1855. Sebelum bangsa-bangsa lain dijemput dan terlibat di Kuala Lumpur. And the message is, okay, successors cannot deny the contributions of their predecessors, and substantiated truth through this evidence of research and all that must prevail. If history has to be rewritten, so be it. Rewrite. InsyaAllah, Ibu Kota Kuala Lumpur dan Malaysia akan berpegang teguh kepada evolusi sebenar sejarah, budaya dan warisan pelbagai etnik kita dengan bukti-bukti yang mencerminkan manifestasi dan nilai yang tepat dalam kebenaran fakta, logik dan kejujuran demi keharmonian masyarakat majmuk kita. Wabillahi taufik wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih, Dato. Thank you very much. And before we invite our next speaker, I always say about Dato that my first encounter with him was that he's not easy to work with, but he always delivers. He always delivers. Yeah. And on that note, Dato mentioned about Abdullah Hukum. The good news, I think, is that I retire this year. But I've told my colleagues next year, inshallah, for Hari Wilayah, maybe we'll do a feature on Abdullah Hukum, Lok Yu, and Tan Busami Pilih. And we feel it's important to acknowledge all the contributions of early pioneers of Kuala Lumpur. And on that note, I just want to add before we invite our next speaker, I've always been fascinated by the Kelang Wars. And wars are always motivated by profit. There's no doubt about it. But if you look at the history of Kuala Lumpur, the history of Kuala Lumpur was built upon business ventures. And it was multiracial business ventures. The Sumatrans and the Chinese, they worked together untuk meneroka, membuka lombong, to open new mines. Yeah? And even with the Kelang Wars, it was about different factions, allegiances, and they went to war because they had genuine grievances. Yeah, so it wasn't a racial war. For example, Raja Asal was aggrieved that he was being a royalty. He was still charged tax. He felt that he should be exempted, right? And Raja Mahdi had his own grievance. He was supposed to be betrothed to Sultan Abdul Samad's daughter. That did not work out. But Sultan Abdul Samad said, "You don't collect enough taxes. Raja Abdullah is doing a better job." Okay. And even Yap Olai was installed the first time by Raja Mahdi. And of course, when it became obvious that Raja Mahdi did not have the support of Sultan Abdul Samad, and it was Tunku Kuldin, of course, Yap Olai allied himself with Tunku Kuldin. Yeah. And so the Kelang War was very important. It's based on commercial grievances, allegiances, and it wasn't racial at all. Now, the other thing that we need to bear in mind was that the Kelang War led to the signing of the Pangko Treaty. And the elements in the Pangko Treaty is still in today's constitution. The institution of the monarchy, Malay rights, and even the position of Islam. That was codified in Angkor Treaty. Yeah. And the other one that we should acknowledge and somebody should make a film or book about is actually the very unpopular person who was gotten rid of, Birch. And arguably, it was Birch who was he was dissatisfied with all the fighting at Kelang Wars, and he convinced that his superiors that no, we have to get somebody, we have to sponsor somebody officially, and that was Tunku Kudin. So that led to formal British colonial presence in Malaya. Before that, they were in the background. They were happy to just to collect the profits from the tin mining. So as unpopular as he was, Birch, but he was a prime mover in facilitating formal British presence in Malaya. So on that note, I would like to invite, give me a minute to open the slides, the next slides.